Off the Venezuelan coast, a massive explosion shatters the silence. 4 Hellfire missiles rip through a secret fortress belonging to the Tren de Aragua cartel, reducing it to a scrap heap in mere seconds. Welcome to Strategic Horizon, your deep dive into the evolving world of modern geopolitics and military strategy. President Maduro believed his Russian-made S-300 batteries had transformed the Caribbean into an impenetrable no-go zone for the US. He was fatally mistaken. In this video, we will unveil how a surgical shadow strike turned a billion-dollar drug hub into rubble, and why Maduro's high-tech defenses were utterly humiliated by a digital god of war. Prepare to discover the true power of networked warfare. Maduro wasn't merely constructing a dock, he was erecting a monument to defiance. For 2 years, his engineers meticulously poured a meter of reinforced concrete into a colossal 200-meter dock near Puerto Cabo. This facility was engineered to handle 500 kilograms of cocaine every single week. Far from being just a pier, it was a fortified hub. To safeguard this billion-dollar operation, the Tren de Aragua cartel deployed Russian-made Kugaine passive radars. Unlike conventional radars that emit detectable pulses, the Kugaine is a silent listener, meticulously scanning for the faint electronic whispers of approaching aircraft. Maduro's commanders were convinced they had forged a ghost zone, a sanctuary where they could detect American patrols 50 kilometers away without revealing their own presence. They felt untouchable, shielded by a meter of concrete and Moscow's most advanced electronic ears. Yet, arrogance in modern warfare often proves to be a death sentence. The Kugaine is indeed a powerful sensor, but it possesses one critical flaw: a fatal blind spot directly above it, a cone of silence. While Venezuelan operators fixated on scanning the horizon for low-flying US Navy patrols, a CIA MQ-9 Reaper drone was already silently positioned at 15,240 meters, precisely within this vertical blind spot. Meanwhile, 241 kilometers offshore, a US Navy Hellfire-class destroyer operated in complete electronic silence, employing advanced ELINT electronic intelligence. The Navy's sophisticated sensors weren't merely observing the dock, they were meticulously delayering the entire facility. It was then that the Aegis system's digital god brain identified a crucial anomaly in the cartel elaborate scheme. The Navy detected a strange, low-frequency electromagnetic hum emanating from deep beneath the reinforced concrete. The 200-meter dock, it turned out, was a deception. It was a multi-million-dollar bait, a decoy meticulously designed to trick the Americans into wasting their ordnance on a mere slab of empty concrete, while the true operations were concealed within a subterranean bunker. The shadow strike was about to transform into a subterranean nightmare. At 1 a.m., the Caribbean coastline became a high-stakes chessboard where the US Navy executed the ultimate game of electronic stealth. This was no routine patrol, it was a surgical procedure designed to bypass an entire nation's coastal defense and decapitate a criminal empire. The Tren de Aragua cartel, protected by Venezuela's chaotic geography and the silent complicity of corrupt regional officials, believed they were invisible. They relied heavily on black market Russian technology, specifically the Kugaine, as their early warning system. To reach the target without igniting a full-scale diplomatic crisis, the Hellfire destroyer initiated MCON Phase 3. This is the naval equivalent of holding your breath in a room teeming with sensors. Its massive SPY-6 radar was powered down, transforming the billion-dollar destroyer into a floating shadow. The US Navy's objective was not to engage the Venezuelan military, but to remain undetected beneath the threshold of their S-300 VM batteries. These Russian-made surface-to-air missile systems are lethal, but their effectiveness is entirely dependent on the quality of the data they receive. By 1:30 a.m., the tactical situation became critically dangerous. The US Navy's SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite initiated a spectral blanket operation. This wasn't mere jamming, it was sophisticated manipulation. Instead of creating a telltale black hole on Venezuelan radar screens, which would have instantly signaled an American presence, the SLQ-32 skillfully fed the Russian-made sensors a perfectly normal representation of sea clutter. It was a digital illusion, painting the coastline as peaceful and empty, while the MQ-9 Reaper silently sliced through the air just kilometers away. However, the cartel had its own hidden guardians. Beneath the waves, Two Yugo-class mini-submarines, likely crewed by mercenaries or rogue elements, patrol the deep-water channels. These silent killers are a nightmare in the Caribbean. Small, stealthy, and incredibly difficult to track. The Arleigh-Burke's towed array sonar detected a faint metallic ping 20 kilometers out. It was a deadly standoff. Even a momentary flicker from the destroyer's sensors could prompt these submarines to launch their Test 71 torpedoes, escalating the Shadow Strike into a massive international incident. The US Navy's response was a masterclass in cyber-electronic dominance, while the destroyer's Aegis system, its godbrain, managed the subterranean threat through passive sonar tracking. It simultaneously coordinated with the Reaper via Link 16. This exemplifies the immense power of a system of systems approach. The destroyer intercepted the cartel's radio chatter and identified the heat signatures of the hidden bunker, then seamlessly relayed that critical data directly to the Reaper's mission computer. The cartel, confident in their meter-thick concrete and decoy dock, believed they could trick the Americans into a wasted surface strike. They assumed that if their facility appeared to be a simple pier, the US would hit the visible target and retreat. They were gravely mistaken. The US Navy's E-lines had already penetrated the concrete, detecting the subterranean hum of cooling fans and the specific frequency of the cartel's satellite uplinks emanating from beneath the bedrock. The Shadow Strike was no longer merely a drug raid, it had become a hunt for a hidden heart. The Reaper was now just 2 minutes from its release point. The Hellfire missiles were primed, and the Tren de Aragua's billion-dollar secret was about to be obliterated beneath its own deceptive facade. The trap was set, and for the cartel there was no escape. At 1:39 AM, the massive SPY-6 radar remained dark, transforming the Arleigh-Burke into a silent predator. In the Combat Information Center, every sailor understood the immense stakes. A single accidental radio pulse could illuminate the Venezuelan S-300 batteries, instantly escalating a drug raid into an international firestorm. But while the destroyer was silent, its electronic ears were wide open. Utilizing high-gain passive antennas, the Aegis system's godbrain was meticulously vacuuming up the cartel's encrypted chatter and mapping the coastline's electronic heartbeat. This was the system of systems in full effect. The destroyer detected the subtle hum of the cartel's subterranean cooling fans and observed the thermal signature of their hidden bunker, then seamlessly whispered that critical data directly into the MQ-9 Reaper's mission computer via Link 16. The cartel, still believing their meter-thick concrete and decoy dock would deceive the Americans, was dead wrong. To further clear the path, the US Navy deployed its most deceptive weapon: digital spoofing. The SLQ-32 electronic warfare suite began generating sophisticated ghost signatures. On the Venezuelan S-300 radar screens, it suddenly appeared as if 12F A-18 Super Hornets were screaming toward the coast 50 meters to the west. This was no crude jamming, it was a perfect digital hallucination. The air defense operators, meticulously trained by Moscow's elite, dutifully followed their protocols, swiveling their massive launchers to hunt these phantom targets. As they were blinded by their own sensors, the true corridor for the Reaper remained wide open, yet the cartel harbored its own formidable guardian angels. Beneath the waves, two Yugo-class mini-submarines, silent, cold, and lethal, patrolled the deep-water channels. These craft are the nightmares of the Caribbean, armed with Test 71 torpedoes capable of snapping a destroyer in half. At 1:45 AM, the Arleigh-Burke's towed array sonar detected the faint hum of their propellers 20 kilometers distant. It was a terrifying stalemate. Launching a torpedo would create an acoustic boom, alerting the entire continent. Instead, the Navy employed a cyber-acoustic trick, projecting a false sonar return that lured the mini-submarines 8 kilometers out to sea, chasing a mere shadow, while the genuine threat glided silently past them. Simultaneously, a Russian-trained cyber unit unleashed a blistering Cozy Bear malware strike, attempting to paralyze the Aegis system for the critical 10 minutes Maduro's proxies needed to scramble Su-30 flankers. It was a digital assassination attempt, but the US Navy's firewall proved to be an impenetrable fortress. The malware struck the shield and was instantly quarantined, analyzed, and bounced back to its source, frying the cartel's own encrypted satellite links in the process. By 2:10 AM, the Tren de Aragua's defenses had crumbled into a house of cards. Their radars chased phantoms, their submarines were lost in the dark depths, and their cyber attack had catastrophically backfired. The MQ-9 Reaper was now gliding silently at just 150 meters, expertly hidden within the surface clutter of the waves. At 2:15 a.m., to ensure absolute accuracy through the thick coastal mist, the US Navy deployed its invisible hand, an MH-60R Romeo helicopter, lurking just above the jungle tree line. Utilizing its multispectral targeting system, the Romeo punched a high-intensity laser beam through the fog, painting the target with a digital death mark that no amount of cartel camouflage could conceal. This was more than just a light, it was a precise coordinate for absolute annihilation. 4 AGM-114R Hellfire missiles dropped from the Reaper's pylons. These snipers of the sky screamed through the atmosphere at Mach 1. 3, each receiving mid-course updates from the Alliberg's Aegis system via Link 16, the impact was devastating. The first 3 Hellfires struck the 200-meter decoy dock with terrifying precision. The meter-thick reinforced concrete, the cartel's Great Wall, was pulverized into titanium confetti. The surface facility, the multi-million-dollar bait the cartel's advisors believed would trick the Americans into wasting their ordnance, was incinerated in a 3-stage fireball. To any satellite observer, the mission would have appeared a total success. The Great Wall was now a scrap heap, but then came the 4th missile, the true masterstroke. While the first 3 were busy shattering the decoy, the 4th Hellfire was tracking a separate, nearly invisible laser point. The Arleigh-Burke's ELINT sensors had detected a specific thermal signature, the very heartbeat of the bunker, leaking from a 50-centimeter ventilation shaft cleverly hidden behind dense jungle foliage. This was the cartel's true Achilles heel. The 4th Hellfire did not hit the dock, instead it plunged directly into the earth, disappearing into the shaft before detonating deep within the bedrock. A massive, muffled, subterranean thud reverberated along the Puerto Cabo coastline. This was no mere surface blast, it was a structural implosion. Thousands of metric tons of rock and reinforced steel collapsed inward, burying the Tren de Aragua's true operation. The 100 metric ton drug stash, the satellite uplinks, and the subterranean laboratories under a mountain of rubble. As the MQ-9 Reaper banked back towards the horizon, Maduro's proxies were left to stare at a smoking crater where their empire once stood. This operation proved that, even with the most elaborate decoys, they become nothing more than markers for an American funeral. The billion-dollar drug hub was gone, and the ghost of the Caribbean was already halfway home. But what if the Venezuelan Su-30 flankers had actually scrambled in time? The result would have been a 370-kilometer execution. The Arleigh-Burke's Aegis Baseline 10 doesn't even require radar to detect a flanker. Its IRST sensors can lock onto a Su-30's heat signature from 200 kilometers away. Before a Venezuelan pilot could even arm his R-77 missiles, an SM-6 Block II interceptor would be screaming toward him at Mach 35. The Su-30 wouldn't just be shot down, it would be utterly deleted from the sky before it ever even saw the MQ-9 Reaper. In the modern Caribbean, the US Navy doesn't just block a punch, it ends the fight before it even begins. Moscow's best jets are, in essence, high-speed targets for an American software team. The Caribbean Shadow Strike delivers a brutal lesson in modern warfare. Decoys only succeed if your enemy is blind. The Tren de Aragua believed a meter of concrete and the fake dock would safeguard their empire. However, the seamless synergy between CIA intelligence and US Navy electronic dominance proved unequivocally that you cannot hide a subterranean heart from a digital god. Modern warfare isn't solely about who possesses the biggest missiles, it's about who commands the smartest network. The cartel brought a shell game to an AI fight, and they paid for it with $1 billion funeral. The Shadow Strike confirmed that against the American military-industrial complex, there are no true hiding places, only targets awaiting unmasking. If you found this analysis insightful into the cutting edge of military operations, hit that like button. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Strategic Horizon for more in-depth masterclasses on naval dominance and global strategy. Keep your radar on.